unstoppable kick-ass confidence. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted Show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It is another edition of the Raw and Unscripted Show. Here's truly at the helm. It is Christopher Rausch, your no excuses coach, and you at your place where I provide you the opportunity to overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Appreciate you guys being here, whether you're live or on the replay, whether you're on the video cast or on the audio podcast. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys so much. We are in 10 countries right now. I found out that Hong Kong is my fastest growing segment of international locations. So thank you guys out there in Hong Kong. I would love to hear from you. Seriously, I would love to hear from you. Send me an email, Christopher@ChristopherRausch.com. It's Rausch. Send me an email, or you can do it info@noexcusescoach.com, whichever is easier. I would love to hear from you, and I would love to see what type of topics and guests you would like to have on the show. If there's anybody particular from your hometown, your home market there that you would love to have on the Raw and Unscripted Show to represent, I would love that opportunity to interview that person. So wherever you guys are at across the world, thank you for joining us. Again, we are live right now on the video broadcast, and we are also going to audio podcast as well, wherever audio podcasts are sold. So if you guys watch this video cast, we would appreciate you going and subscribing to the podcast and vice versa. That way we can continue to reach as many people as we can with this message. I've been doing this now this is the 210th episode, ladies and gentlemen, 210 episodes of the Raw and Unscripted Show. And this is something that I do completely out of the goodness of my heart. It's my way of giving you an opportunity to work alongside me as we talk about life and mindset and resiliency and confidence and courage and being able to learn about forgiveness and empathy, all the things we talk about here on the show, designed to move your life and your confidence move forward so that you can go out there and experience the things that you haven't been able to experience because of the limiting beliefs that you have within yourself. And that's what I do. I bring every single week, either a guest or myself, the opportunity for you to see things from a different perspective, not just my perspective and my vantage point, but from other people that have all been in similar situations where they've been at their lowest moments and had to realize what their true resiliency was made out of, what their true why is in order to find that resiliency and that how deep within their souls. And so I enjoy doing this. We're going to be continuing to do this for quite some time. I don't see this ever stopping. So thank you. So let me know in the comments, let me know in an email, Christopher@ChristopherRausch.com, what type of subjects, what type of guests you would like to see. Truth be told, we are booking now into November. It is crazy. Somebody just asked to be on the show recently, and they wrote back and they said, do you have anything before November? And I said, no, actually I don't. So thank you guys. It's been amazing, and it's going to continue to be that way. So I love and appreciate you guys. We got David Libby in the house. What's up, David? Appreciate you. He says, heck yeah, we're going to be rocking and rolling, brother. I hope you are doing amazing and awesome tonight yourself. And something I haven't been able to talk about in a while, I want to talk about the show. It's brought to you by the amazing people at Help Heal Humanity. HelpHealHumanity.org is an organization that I've been personally involved with now for about 3 years. I know the CEO and the founder, Serena Buffalino. It's an amazing group of people who are really heart-centered, and they're out there on a mission to make this world a better place, and bringing food to food insecure people, bringing shelter to people who have been damaged by earthquakes, for example, in Haiti, homeless people in Ontario, different places. And so we need your help with that. So when you get value out of this particular episode, and we just had somebody that did this, anytime you donate anything over $200, you get an hour of coaching with me as well. So if you make a donation to helphealhumanity.org, you go there and you hit the donate tab, and any donation $200 above gets you an hour coaching with me. And one of the listeners just recently took me up on that, donated $300. So thank you for that, guy. I appreciate it. And then he donated his coaching session to somebody who he felt needs a little bit of mentoring. So I spent an hour with that young gentleman, if you will, talking about his business plans and everything else. So when you get value out of the show, I would love it for you to go over there and help us out. If you want to get involved with the organization, go there to the volunteer tab, and you can see what's going on in the organization. A lot of things are changing, a lot of things are happening, and we need your help to help heal humanity. So thank you for allowing me that opportunity with you guys as well. And the last thing I want to talk about before we bring on my amazing co-host and we bring on our amazing guest, who we are having a little bit of technical difficulty with, to be honest with you, this is my life, passion, and my purpose. For those of you guys listening on the podcast, I'm holding up a cover of my book that it will be out in September, October. It's called It's Just You and Me, Kid. The current subtitle will be changed, but right now it says The True Story of a Mother and Son Survival on the Streets of California. This is going to be out this year. It'll be out in September, October. A lot of you guys have been asking me about this for so many times and so often. I'm proud to say it's going to be out. And what I need is your help. I want it to be a #1 bestseller, and I need your help with that. So if you go over to the website, it's justyouandmekid.com. It's justyouandmekid.com. That's the title of the book. And register to be on the priority mailing list for when it comes out. You will get a bunch of extras in that. So if you buy the book the day it comes out, there's a bunch of bonuses you can see there on the website. One of which is potentially winning a coaching session with me. Other things are being able to ask me questions about the book and talk about stories that were admitted and get access to pictures and things of that nature, all those bonuses that you want with a book, to be able to find out all the different stories that maybe didn't make the book, a bunch of other stuff. So go over there, check it out. It's justyouandmekid.com. I would appreciate and love your support with this. The book's going to be a game changer for so many, and I truly believe in my heart of hearts it will be made into a movie. So with that, I appreciate your support and thank you for that. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, last week we got Jen Grosso in the house. What's up? She goes, I will get on that list. Can't wait to read it. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate you for being here with us. And just like last week, I talked about this. I have the opportunity here on the show to be joined by a co-host. And that's just something that I don't normally do here on the Raw and Unscripted show. That's something that I prefer with my unfiltered experience. But because I love this person so dearly, and she has so many amazing people in her circle, and she is brilliant, and she's been a sincere mentor to me for over a decade. Please welcome to the beautiful broadcast, my dear friend, Patty. What's going on, Patty?
Hello.
How are you doing, beautiful?
Hello. Thank you. Good. Really good. I am super excited again to be here. So last week was really a lot of fun. We had the amazing Oren Checkmate Hudson. And, I think I'm still sort of like in a buzz because, I'm a very poor chess player, but after having the conversation with him and just that inspiration of, just get at it, you can do it. Hey, Christopher, I can teach you in 10 minutes. I'm like, what am I missing?
I mean, when he said that, I was like, you haven't talked, you obviously haven't learned enough out of this broadcast to find out that I don't have the aptitude for when you're starting to talk about all the chess pieces and the names. And I'm like, yeah, right.
I know. I loved it. It was so cool. And
did you get inspired to go play this week? Did you play it all this week?
I did.
You did?
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
So I do my chess.com. So I have my little computer chess game, and I haven't played for a while, so you forget the patterns. And so it took me a little while to get back into the groove, but I kind of made it. So yeah, and I'm threadging.
You're threading, yes. What's threading? Talk to us about threading. Is that
Threading.
threading, needle threading for your eyebrows?
So one of our super good friends, who we both know quite well, Craig Gusbolt. Hey, Serena. His son Ryan is a drummer and an amazing drummer, and his band is Thredge. And I have actually been doing some paintings, listening to their music. So my collaboration with Greg under Lotus 97.7, we've been listening to some of his music and creating these paintings that we're hoping are going to knock everybody's socks off. They're pretty wild. So yeah. So anyways, I'm big shout out to Thredge. Love, 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 love Ryan. Love them all.
Yes. Awesome, and for people who aren't familiar with him, what type of music is it?
Yeah, well, it's not something that you're going to sit quietly. It's pretty headbanging, hard rock metal. Yeah, but they truly do have a backstory, which I won't share because I'm hoping one day we're going to get Ryan on.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yes, and it's about. I think they really took what happened during COVID to a new level where they just really started to feel like, what are the injustices in this world and what have we done and what are we leaving for humanity? So the lyrics of all their music it's dark, meaningful, and definitely impressionable. So it's very pay attention to. And I think they're going to go somewhere big. I know they are.
Yeah, with his talent, I mean, and his dad's access to the music industry, I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, well,
I see him practicing. I see his TikToks and stuff like that, and he's constantly always practicing and beating the hell out of those skins.
Well, he's doing his schooling now at the university by internet, and he's moved back to LA. And they play Whiskey a Go-Go, and they've got a couple things coming up. I think even May 12th, I think there's an event. So I know that this is going to be something that, 25 years from now, people are going to go, oh my God, do you remember Led Zeppelin? Well, now we have Thread. So
Ooh,
it's going to be, they're going to be good, really good. Yeah.
that's exciting. That's exciting. So what is potentially going on with our guest tonight? I know our guest is coming to us from Costa Rica and is experiencing some internet issues. Have we been able
Yes.
to?
Okay. So he, of course, being in Costa Rica, we had a few test runs, but tonight the internet has been challenging in his home. So he needs 5 minutes and he's going to change locations. So he'll be able to hop on with us. In the meantime, while we're, waiting for Brandon to come on, maybe I'll just read you a little bit about our guest.
Yes, please do.
So I know the question is, who is Brandon? And again, you asked the question about, well, how do you know Brandon? And of course, our guest for next week, because I'm really lucky to be able to co-host, 3 events with you, is going to be Dio Gibson, who is another super amazing Canadian. He is a superstar rapper and has an incredible story. And I'm looking forward to that. But Brandon and Dio actually were part of a group that I was part of called Synergy through the Archangel group, Giovanni Marsico. And we met and we were all in the Synergy group. And it's like a mastermind. And of course, after you're talking to people year after year and getting into their business and what they do, there's a certain amount of, education, inspiration, things that, people have that you want to help and support, mentor, and actually just become part of. So with Brandon, he is the founder and the CEO of Fire to Light. It's a company bringing awareness to the trauma experienced by firefighters everywhere. Fire to Light has taken a preventative approach to the mental health of firefighters because actually Brandon was in Brampton, Ontario, over a decade as a firefighter. And, he's made this huge jump, this decision, which we're going to talk about once he gets on. And but through ongoing research and his firsthand experience, Brandon and his team developed programs that help firefighters to understand what trauma is and provide them with tools to build resilience with their mental health and helping them to reduce the increasing rates of PTSD and firefighter suicide, which is also, unfortunate, but very rampant. But, I want to share a little bit more, but his backstory is so huge that I want to really wait until he gets on so we can get him to, share some of this. Prior to him, becoming a firefighter, he traveled and he had this unbelievable excursion across the world, which I do want him to hear about that. Yeah. So I'm just going to check my phone because it appears that, okay, he needs just a couple more minutes. So I think that's good. But in the meantime, Christopher, there is something you and I both know is so important, and that is that the wellness, the state of our minds and what we do and the choices that we make, really super, ground us. And I think, with what you're doing right now, even with Raw and Unscripted, people who have not had opportunities to find a platform where they can, hear something quick or just have the opportunity to lay something out in front of them. And, so I always say kudos to you. Thank you so much for what you're doing because it is life-changing and a lot of people have been impacted by that. Yes.
Thank you. You're amazing for acknowledging that and coming from you. I take that in high regard. I don't know if I told you this before, but I found out through a website that this podcast is rated in the top 15% of all podcasts globally, and over, I can't remember how many millions of podcasts. It's top rated in 15%. And I never really knew about that, but it makes me feel good to know that we're in 10 countries and we're making an impact and continuing to go strong. We got a wait list up until November now to be on the show. So it's just incredible through your support and everybody else's support of really liking the message of the fact that I don't mince words, and I come at things from a direct standpoint, but from a supremely loving standpoint. And I have a lot to thank for you about that, because you introduced me to that way back in the days with the book you wrote, Karmic Alibi. That was one of my first forays into this type of world, and the spirituality kind of world, and you were the one that introduced me to it. So thank you for helping me continue to expand and grow.
Wow. Well, you're welcome. I love the fact that, we also met. That little story is kind of interesting. You're unfortunate. We were at a boot camp, and your cat was with you.
Yeah.
And
Rocky.
your cat, Rocky, was actually not doing very well. And you were pacing and going back and forth to the hotel room and looking after the cat. And I gave you a band to put on your wrist.
Mm-hmm. It was something very similar to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's going back over 10 years ago. And it became sort of important. And I love the fact that as time goes by and people change and all these things happen, there's still this notion that we do make a difference. We do make a difference.
Mm-hmm. You never know. I mean, we never know. I always tell people that I'm not out to change somebody overnight. What I'm out to do is I'm out to plant seeds to start to germinate now with the things that I say. And then over a period of time, as other things land in that same soil that causes it to germinate and causes it to grow, that person has that experience and thinks back, wow, oh, I remember when that guy said that. So if it's not today, it may be down the road. And I have countless people always reaching out to me like, oh my God, Chris, I finally get what you were talking about, how life is happening for me and not to me, or whatever it might be. And so that always feels great. I mean, honestly, it does. It knows for me to fulfill my legacy every single day, where I was just talking about this on a show that I was interviewed on last night. And we were talking about, what's your why, the importance of leverage. And I said, my why came about when I wrote my eulogy back in 2008, when I just really, I spelled it out like, okay, here's what I want to be remembered for, how I want to be remembered. And so every single day when I wake up, I set the intention for fulfilling that legacy, so that every day I just live with the purpose and the passion to help make the world a better place for who I am and what I do. And hopefully it catches on with other people as well.
I love that. I really think, going into this latter part of my own life, I still have, the 5 books that I'm writing. I have my drumming, of course, the art, dabbling in some of the, arenas that I wouldn't normally have ever thought I would step into, and making them feel as if they are important. Like they're important. You're fulfilling that aspect of whatever this, courage is to be a human, to have your soul journey, and just, wake up knowing. Here's the thing that's interesting. I did mention, and a lot of people do know this, I lost on Friday at 3:00 in the afternoon. I lost one of my super closest friends, like Arunus. And I know he was very prepared for this, although there were many, many things that I think he still felt of course he wanted to accomplish.
Sure.
But it's just been those days after that, your awareness just becomes so, I cannot waste a second of my life. I don't want to waste any time. I want to make sure that whatever I'm doing is valuable, but not just to me. It's what's valuable to, as you mentioned, the legacy. What is it that you can do? Because we're all an extension of one another. We live in this, cosmic conscious reality. No matter what your practice is, there's so much. I heard something today that blew my mind about AI. That there's
What'd you hear? Is it
robots.
good, or is it scary? Because I don't.
Yeah, it's super
scary.
scary. These robots can read your mind.
What?
And this scientist has written a program that for however it evolved, these robots can actually know what you're thinking. And
Wow.
that was like, that just blew my mind. I'm like, there's no way anyone wants to know what's in this girl's head.
How does it do that? That's kind of freaky. I mean, I
don't know yet. Yeah, I don't know. Somehow it can text it, like after it reads your mind, it's texting it. So I have to talk to Ken Walls, because Ken knows all of these things. So I have to see if he knows anything about that. So I don't have any updates on my phone with Brandon yet.
Yeah, I'm seeing him now. I'm seeing him backstage. It looks like he's getting situated. So
okay.
Give me a thumbs up, Brandon, if you're good to go. Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up. Okay, would you
Yay.
like to introduce him? He's got a big old grin on his face, so we're
Okay.
ready to rock and roll.
Okay, so, well, yes, of course, coming live from Costa Rica, Brandon Evans, the CEO of Fire to Light, and a man with a lot of incredible stories. Look at you with the headphones.
What's
Hey,
going on,
Brandon.
Brandon? Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you. I'm sitting in like a 1989 Toyota. Just had to drive down a mountain to get some kind of reception. But I look at this. I got the ring light in the car.
I love
Look
it.
at you. You got the studio going.
I got the studio. I got the old Shagwagon studio going. So there you go.
Oh, wow.
I
Wow.
love it. Resourcefulness, man. Resourcefulness. You win as one of the top guests who had to get resourceful. I had a guy that was doing it from his car one time, and then all of a sudden he didn't account for the fact that was getting dark. And so as it was getting darker, you couldn't see him anymore. So then he had the little dome light, and it was like so pathetic. It was like this shadow of a man. I said, I feel like I'm interviewing a murderer or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, you brought the ring light, so you're good, man. It's a pleasure to have you here. Patricia's told me so much about you, and I'm excited to kind of dive into this. And I did some research about you, and I'm curious to just jump off into the deep end of it. You know, I saw that you interviewed 100 fire chiefs recently from all over the world. Talk to us about that experience and what really precipitated that, and let's kind of jump into what it is that you're about. Might be a little bit of a delay. Did you catch that?
Sounds good. It is getting a little choppy. You cut off a little bit there, but talking about the 100 fire chiefs that we interviewed.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, it was crazy. It was wild. I didn't know what I was going to get into when I started. So I am a firefighter myself. I had gone down a road, long story short, of creating a trauma awareness program for firefighters, trying to take a really preventative approach to how we in the fire service deal with and understand mental health. And that led me to doing some research from some other people. And so I wanted to interview fire chiefs. I wanted to interview some leaders to get their perspective, as they are the decision makers. They're the leaders. They're the ones kind of guiding the way when it comes to how we manage and deal with, our mental health. And so a few calls with some fire chiefs in Canada quickly led me into Australia. And then it just kind of ping-ponged all over the world. Australia, into the United States, all across the States, into the United Kingdom, into Europe. I spoke with chiefs in Malaysia, in Bangladesh, in Tokyo. I spoke with chiefs on 5 different continents all around the world. And it was amazing, the things that I learned. It was amazing what's happening. It's amazing what's not happening. It's amazing the similarities from one continent to another continent. It was, there were so many mind-blowing things that came out of it that I didn't expect. A lot of what I did expect came up, but then there were also some fascinating things that I didn't expect. But
What were some of
the
those?
underlying theme of everything was that we all have trauma. It all impacts us, and we haven't quite yet, in the fire service anyways, as first responders, maybe even in society, figured out how to manage it. We're trying to take a collective approach, a one size fits all approach, is kind of what I see. That's
Brandon's taking a brief pause. Wow, what an amazing situation to get himself into. And then I wanted to pause him. I wanted to find out what some of those mind-blowing breakthroughs are, because it's so amazing that finally mental health is getting the attention that it deserves in all areas of life. I mean, it's not just a matter of, as men especially, we don't have to just bury it. We don't just have to deal with it. Like, you're a man, you don't be a punk, you should be able to handle the stress, and you should be able to handle this. And especially those guys, and how much pressure and scrutiny they're under for every single thing that they do. I mean, mental health is massive in both fire departments, police departments. I mean, everywhere, really.
Yeah, first line responders for sure. I remember, this is going back now a ways, that I got a phone call from Brandon one evening, and he was just totally devastated. And he said, I just need to hear some kind words right now. I just left a fire and the young girl just passed in my arms.
Oh my God.
And you know, I mean, he's had that happen before, but this one was in particular, and I won't say all of the circumstances around it,
Yeah.
but you know, I think that was impactful. But I want to share while he's trying to get himself, I think, back on. So Brandon's not on holidays in Costa Rica. He actually, after making the decision that he wanted to do this work, he took I don't know if it's a full leave of absence, but a teaching leave of absence for him. And he took his wife and his 2 children, and they moved to Costa Rica, sold his house in Brampton, and has taken up residence there and is working in a very unique community, which is another part of a story that would be amazing for him to share.
He's back. Give me a thumbs up. You ready? Bear with us, people. Bear with us. This is technology. We're bringing you the good stuff all the way from Costa Rica. Welcome back, brother. Thank you for being.
Sorry.
No worries. So, what were some of those big, mind blowing realizations that you had talking to these 100 fire chiefs?
Well, I lost light. We talked about the light. I lost the light. There we go.
Come back to the light, Brandon.
You know, there's a lot of there's just a lot of there's a lack of education. There's a lack of awareness around what mental health means. So a few big things for me that came up where I don't know what's going on with this light. So one is like we deal with so much death as first responders, as firefighters. You know, I've probably done CPR well over 100 times. Couldn't tell you how many times I've put hands on dead people. There's gonna be a light show over here, in and out. And so there's a massive, massive lack of a relationship with death. We don't have one. I think this goes for most people, but in a place where we deal with it so often, so readily, there hasn't been time for self-exploration about what that means. So for me, looking at this from all my experiences, that was a really big one. It was a really, really big one. There's a lack of knowledge and acceptance of death. Something that we have to deal with all the time, in and out, and it just is non-existent. So that was really huge. There's a massive like generational gap, or a perceived generational gap that the older generation doesn't understand the new generation.
Yep.
And they perceive that this is a huge issue. And I mean, this is just an adaptation, right? We just adapt and we evolve. Every generation learns something from older generations, from younger generations, and everything in between. So this isn't nothing new. It's just as we enter into this plane of really diving deep to try to understand our mental plane, the younger generation talks, the older generation has learned to suppress and not talk. One has maybe better work ethic than the others, or a very different work ethic. And so there's like these colliding, this polarization within the culture of the fire service. And this isn't in one specific place. This is at large, all around the world, on every different continent of chiefs that I've spoke with, trying to find a balance, trying to find an understanding from our youth, from what we used to do, and what does that mean? So these ones are talking, the younger generation's talking, but they're going off a lot earlier. Older generation doesn't talk. And if they go off, they never return. Generally, they never return to the fire service. So, yeah, a few big things. Death was the biggest one. These generational gaps, and then it's the big stuff's always the small stuff, right? The big stuff is like the chiefs that are really progressive, that are doing incredible things, are doing things that like don't cost any money.
Ooh, I want to hear about that.
Yeah, they cost, right? It costs no money at all. So we've got fire chiefs that are leading by example, who are taking stripes off their shoulders, right? So we're a paramilitary organization. We have ranking symbols. The fire chief wears 5 gold stripes or stars, all that kind of stuff. Think about the military, all the stripes and all the stuff they wear on their crests and their chests. And this fire chief has taken all that away. No more symbols of hierarchy. And so immediately we remove intimidation. I'm just going for a walk now because I can get some light. But he's like, you know, the idea is that you as a rookie, as a new person coming in, don't need to feel intimidated by who I am. On the fire ground, I need you to listen to what I say. That's your job. So go and do it. But that transfers over into the fire hall, into all those other aspects. And there's time and place for all those things. And so it's these small acts of taking stripes away that go against massive entrenched traditions that exist everywhere, right? If we're talking about fire, they exist in the fire service. They also exist in our society and in our families and in the military and in our schools and everywhere. So there's chiefs that are standing up against some of these entrenched traditions because they've seen things a little bit differently and they've decided to take action on it. Another chief just came into power, right? Just came into his position, and he's like, I implemented all these things, spent all this money putting all these mental health programs in place. And the biggest thing, the thing that I hear most often is that firefighters come up to you and say, hey, chief, thanks for taking the chief's parking spots away in the parking lot. Now we don't have to stress about parking. So it seems like it was a nothing, super simple thing to do. Let's just take, they're complaining about parking. Let me take that away. But it's like, no, let me remove the hierarchy.
Right.
Let me bring myself back down to being human. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so this aligns with some chiefs have a greater understanding of what it means to be vulnerable. And what it and the power of sharing stories. And so this is something that I'm really trying to push through my report and through my programming. I don't believe there's enough chiefs that are telling enough stories.
Yeah. And did you find that to be something that was predominant within the United States, or something that was there similarities within the United States? Or was this something you were just finding out geographically all over with the 100 chiefs that you talked to?
Yeah, no, everywhere. It didn't matter. I mean, chiefs in Malaysia were saying the same thing, right? Hierarchy was probably more prevalent in Asia than it was in North America or in Europe.
Would imagine Latin America would probably be pretty high too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I actually didn't get too deep into Latin America. Funny enough, as I'm living here, it's so rural and volunteer based, even in the large cities. It was just a very challenging. Some countries were super challenging to try to. I'm still trying. I'm still trying to knock on doors with leadership in various parts of the world. But yeah, you know, things are different. You know, it's interesting in Asia. They don't really have an issue with suicide in the fire service. In America, y'all have a massive issue with suicide within the fire service.
What do you think the differences are on that?
Well, it's interesting. So one, we spoke a lot about faith, right? When I talked to the chiefs about it, he said, you know, our religion is so deep, our faith is so deep. So this was in Malaysia with a Muslim religion. And he's like, you know, it goes against our religion to kill ourselves. And so the implementation of having spaces within the service to prayer or to pray, they set it up so it's conducive for those that are very religious. I think in the West, we tried to do that. We've maybe tried or not tried hard enough to do that.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, you have to remember too, like, I'm interviewing individuals on their own personal perspective about their position, about their fire departments. So part of this is dependent on who I'm speaking with at the time, right? So everything, there's a lot of factors that come into play, but I really do believe that having faith in anything doesn't need to be religious faith, just having faith in the unknown, having trust in ourselves, having a relationship with death. I believe these things help to keep us going through traumas. And if we've never faced any trauma in our life, which a lot of us, just speaking from experience working with so many firefighters, a lot of us haven't. We just keep going because we're taught to just keep going. We're taught to just keep sucking it up until the walls fall down, not ever imagining that it will be us, that will happen too. Without a lot of faith, I don't think that there's a lot of faith that's it, right? And so, I believe that, trusting in the unknown, having a relationship with the unknown, diving into the unknown, is something that scares the shit out of most of us. And I think there's a part of it that forever will. And we can still learn to strengthen that relationship. And so I think this is a huge thing with firefighters. We don't trust it. There's a massive issue with trust. So this is also what's come up, right? Like, we have a hard time with trust. We can trust each other because we have uncommon commonalities. Yeah.
Sorry, keep going. I'll ask you after.
Okay. I thought it was like an audio thing. So yeah, we're not putting our hands up soon enough. We have too many firefighters killing themselves. Too many firefighters are now going on leave. Burnout is the next biggest thing to come in the area of, let's just call them government workers, of first responders. When you look at fire, police, ambulance services, nursing services, doctors, like we have not, I believe we have not seen the worst of what's happening. We have mandatory overtime lists that are coming out. And so anyways, this trust piece is like, I can trust another firefighter at the table because we were at the same call, because we've been in fires, because we've seen burnt bodies. I can probably understand that you have maybe seen, dead kids as I have, like this horrible shit that we experience. And there's common ground there, right? Yeah. We know about it. We share it. We can joke about it when most people can't joke about it. However, I'm not a trained therapist. Everyone at the table aren't trained therapists. So there's this stigma is, I believe it's much as we're getting better, I believe it's much, much worse than what we perceive it to be, with those suffering in silence, with those still not putting their hand up, and with those not practicing like what we're talking about, mental fitness. We're waiting until it's too late to go and get help. And now you have a diagnosis of PTSD, a psychological injury, whatever you want to call it, opposed to preparing yourself. Just like how you might go to the gym or eat healthy food, we prepare ourselves in case some shit happens, in case we get injured. If we never have a relationship with death and view that maybe our own death could be something magical, and think and put effort and energy into our last experiences, our last thoughts to serve us now as we're living, then it makes things really hard when we experience death, especially when you're experiencing multiple deaths a week. We got places in the states where firefighters are responding to multiple gun shootings a week, not one a month. I've never been to one in my life, but multiple shootings a week that normally result to some kind of injury and or death. It's a very, very common thing in certain states. We got firefighters in certain countries that their biggest fear is they get held at gunpoint responding to calls. Wow. And so there's massive issues that are happening. And then the underlying theme, right, is like, it's all just trauma, right? It all impacts us in a negative manner. And so what are we doing to start managing how to deal with it, right? Life isn't rainbows and love and all this stuff. Oh, just peace and love, man. It's all good.
Rainbows
like,
are real life.
Yeah.
Like, it's a part of it. It's a part of life, and it's a beautiful part of life. But like, suffering is also a part of life. And I don't think we put enough emphasis and energy into what suffering is, how we suffer, and what we can make of our suffering. That's the biggest piece, right? There's no conversation fucking
Brandon.
anywhere.
Brandon, that's so real. And of course, that's
Mm.
our attachment to suffering that causes us to, want to continue. We're so hardwired sometimes on staying in that focus that we don't know how to release ourselves from it.
Yeah.
And it takes great courage. But I want to stop you just for a bit, because we could probably have like 10 sessions. 10
This is
episodes.
awesome. Once we got you connected, man, we're flowing.
But
Man.
there's so much more. And one thing I really think, I so appreciate, which I have the privilege of knowing Brandon for a while. I want you to share a little bit about your early days, because there was a side of your life where you just took risk and went across basically the country to the other side of the world and hopped onto a different way of life. You got onto a boat, and the things those stories, they're beyond the book, a lot of them. But give us one or two, highlights of. You know which one I'm thinking of, right?
Yeah. I'll give some context too, because I think about it often. Like, our mind traps us as we become adults, right? And the longer we're an adult, the more potential there is for our mind to just keep us trapped in things. And I think all of us, from time to time, fall back into that loop. So here I am, took a sabbatical from the career job with the pension, all the things, living in Costa Rica with my family, being like, wow, we did it. We actually did it. That's crazy. And there was years before that being like, man, like this was the dream. This was the goal. Not really reflecting or connecting to other times in my life. So when I was 23 years old, 22 years old, I packed up my truck, drove across the country, spent a season forest firefighting in British Columbia. That led me back to Ontario. Next thing you know, I ended up in New Zealand. I got a work visa for New Zealand. And that was kind of cool. Spent 3 months milking cows on a farm. Spent absolutely all my money, because New Zealand is really expensive as a 23-year-old trying to just backpack around. And that led me into Asia. And so there's lots of stories here. Patricia's pushing one on a boat, so we can kind of bounce back and forth. I'll just get to the boat because it's a fucking cool story. So
Nice.
I find myself, Thailand was like a home base for me for that year. I spent about 5 months there, off and on, back and forth. And so I came back from a 3-month stint in India, which is a whole bunch of stories from India. And I found myself cruising down Thailand into Malaysia. And I'm kind of running out of money again. I'm like, okay, well, now what do I do? Because I don't want to go home. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. And so I don't know where the universe just dropped this idea into my head that, oh, maybe I'll take a boat. I've been on planes, I've been on trains, I've been on buses, I've walked on foot, I've rode bikes, I've done all the things, but I haven't really been on a boat. My idea is that I'll hop on a freighter, cross the Pacific, and then hitchhike across the country back home to Toronto. That was my idea. So I get a list of all the freighter yards and shipping yards throughout Malaysia and Indonesia. And I show up at the first shipping yard, and there's like Fort Knox. There's no way I'm getting in this thing. So I just cruise down to the yacht club, and I have a conversation, and they're like, where are you going? I go, I'm headed into Indonesia. They're like, ooh, it's a rough time to go to Indonesia. Trade winds are going the opposite direction. Everyone's crossing the Indian Ocean right now. I've never sailed a day in my life. Like, never stepped foot on a sailboat. I got little boats at our cottage that we go fishing on and stuff. Never sailed anything in my life before. And so I move on. I get into Singapore, onto the next yacht club. And this one took some convincing. It took me about 45 minutes to convince the guard to let me in, to walk along the dock, to just ask people if I could hitch a ride on their boat.
It. That's awesome. You got balls.
And the first boat that I came to, there was a woman there. They just, hey, excuse me. Yeah. I go, you looking for an extra deckhand? She said, where are you going? I said, I don't know. Nowhere. I'm just looking for an adventure. And 5 days later, I was on the boat, and we were cruising through the Malaga Strait, which is the busiest strait or passageway for sea vessels in the world, in between Malaysia and Singapore, or sorry, in between Indonesia and Malaysia. And I spent 3 months crossing the Indian Ocean, and this was in 2008. So this was at the height of Somali pirating in the Indian Ocean.
Oh wow.
So when we got out to we left the Maldives, which is like paradise on earth. It's such an incredible place. And we went to Oman. We had to sail out 90 miles, which is like I think it was almost 2 days to get out to this shipping corridor. And on the way out there, you're in the middle of nowhere, right? There's nothing around you. And so the waves are super big. So we're kind of bobbing up and down. And I think I'm hearing voices. So I like as the waves are, I'm at the top of the wave. You're like looking around and like, yeah, I don't see anything. And I get back down, I'm reading my book. And I did that about 3 or 4 times. And then next thing, there's a boat that's like right beside us. I was like, holy shit. And this is like a raggedy old fishing boat. And so I yelled down to the captain, go down below deck. We all get our stuff together. We come out. Looks like one dude's holding a gun. There's like 5 guys on top of the deck. We're like, what do we do right now? And we're like, everyone is like freaking out. There's only 4 of us on the boat. And so my captain.
What kind of boat were you on? Were you on a commercial vessel or were you on a private?
No, we were on a 50-foot monohull sailboat. Just a sailboat, a decent sized sailboat for crossing the oceans, but nothing luxurious. It would sleep like 7 people. And there was just 4 of us. There was just 4 of us on the boat. So we could do watch. And so my captain on that boat, man, Michael was like, this guy has courage, man. Like, and I didn't fully realize it until years later. Right. But looking back on these experiences of what happened, he was like, it's all good. Like, it'll all be good. So we just walk up on deck. And so he's trying to talk to them. We're just kind of following Michael's lead. And there's big waves. So they have all these antennas on their boat and they're like rocking back and forth. And our sails rocking back and forth. So now we're like, you need to get away from us or we're both going to sink when your antennas wrap around our sail, because this is not being good. So anyways, end of the day, they weren't pirates. They were just fishermen, and they threw us some coconuts that they had on board, and we threw them a beer, and we made some pina coladas, and it was all good. But yeah, it's in these moments, right, where you're like, okay, you're thinking about all the stuff in the past, so the past comes into present. This is what we prepared for this. You're thinking about the future. What the fuck is going to happen? Are we actually going to get pirated? What does that mean? What does that look like? Oh my God. And then Michael was able to like pull us all back into the present moment to be like, let's see what we got right now.
Yeah.
Let's not worry about what it could be. Let's just deal with what we got right now. Because if they are pirates, it is going to be what it's going to be. There's no escaping. There's nothing around us. We can't go anywhere. We're hundreds of miles from anything.
That's so true, Brandon. That's so true.
Mindfulness, like fully present in the moment without judgment, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
It was a wild experience.
So I have another question. So talking about, you started off the conversation talking about how much trauma you've experienced. And I think that's a beautiful segue to talk about what has your healing journey been like, given the fact of the situations you physically have been placed in, the things you have seen. How do you process that trauma? Do you go to plant-based medicine? Have you tried psilocybin and things of that nature? Talk to us about how you've shifted your perspective about the catastrophic things you've experienced.
So, thanks for asking the question. That's a big question. Right. This is a big question, and it's for, I really believe that this is it's all about a journey into the self, and how willing one is to face their own humility again and again and again and again and again, and to peel back the infinite layers of that humility onion, because it's never endless. So what does the journey look like? So if we go back to India and that trip, I found myself placed in a room with the Dalai Lama for 3 days. Don't know how I got there. It just kind of happened. And I sat there, karma. Yeah, exactly. I know how it happened. But so I sat there for 3 days listening to this individual talk about life and share stories. And and it was profound. And the thing that I walked away with that from, one was that I've never been in the presence of a human like that, where you can feel their aura and their energy so profoundly. So that was quite special. But he goes, when everyone goes away at the end of the day, your family, your friends, your children, everyone, you're left with yourself. And how can you be with yourself? And that stuck with me. And so from that experience moving forward, there was some fucking good parties when I was cruising around the world, right? Like I had a lot of fun. But that led me down this path of exploration, and I started meditating. It's funny, before I was a firefighter, I had insomnia. I couldn't sleep. I'd be up all night long. I was a contractor thinking about every little minute detail that had to go into it. What screws am I going to buy? Where did I have to move that wall? All those things. I couldn't sleep. And it was meditation that helped to get me to sleep. And then through meditation, I started researching and learning about hypnosis. How can I hypnotize myself? Let me into breath work. Started doing breath work and ice baths over a decade ago. It was like, once something pulls you in to create a curiosity about yourself, then that opens a doorway to do it a little bit more and do it a little bit more. And so, this was from when I was like 23 years old. I'm 39 now. And in the middle of COVID, like I lost a business during COVID. My wife and I ran a fitness gym, a CrossFit gym, and I closed it at the end of COVID. For all the reasons. It was just sucking energy. It was sucking money, all the things. Cost an awful lot of money. And so in the middle of it, before I knew I was going to close it, there was all that financial stress, stress of responsibility for my members and the other people that were there. And we extracted a woman from a house fire. It was a homicide. She was beaten and burned to death. And for me, this was a call that hit me. It struck me hard, with the culmination of all of the events that were happening in my life. It brought up a lot of the other traumas, the significant ones that I had gone through. The 16-year-old who hung himself, who I did CPR on for over an hour, just trying to bring this kid back to life. You know what I mean? So it brought all these other traumas back into play. And I found myself that night at home. My wife had cooked a wonderful roast chicken dinner. And I'm like, I can't eat this. I'm just staring at this plate, reliving this scene that I was just a part of early that morning. My children are talking to me. My wife's yelling at me to say, hey, listen to the kids. The kids are talking to you. And then a few days later, I'm in my office. I don't even know what was happening. My son walked in the room and he knocked something over. I don't know what it was. And I turned to him and I said, are you fucking kidding me right now? So my son was 4 years old at this time. So here I am, a grown man, yelling and swearing at my children, not communicating with them, not being the dad that I want to be, and whatever excuse I want to add to it, all the stress that I'm having or whatever. And my wife turned to me and she said, you need to get some help. So I think a massive, massive contributor to the question that you asked is support from our community, right? The collective. So, I mean, Patricia is a part of this journey 110%. And so if Ashley hadn't have said that, it's not that I wouldn't have gone to get help. Maybe it would have prolonged it. Who knows what else would have ensued or happened in between. So I went to a community that I was a part of and I said, guys, I need some help. I need some help. And now you have the universe comes into play. So this was really entering the first interactions that Patricia and I had. So another friend of ours, Laura, I wanted to speak with her. So she does neurolinguistic programming. This stuff was magic, right? So saying yes to an experience that I never had before with someone who was trained allowed me to change the image in my head from a burnt turkey to a pair of jeans and Aretha roses. It's another story, but it does incredible things for literally rewiring your brain. And then Patricia had reached out in a group chat to just say, hey, like, I'm here to chat if you want. And I went home and I wrote a poem called The Hero's Sorrow. And it was, you know, you do the hero thing and you do all this stuff, and then you're just left feeling like an absolute hole, like not a hero at all, but the exact opposite of that, or what it should be. Because you have to deal with all these horrible things. You know what I mean? I was exposed to this woman, this horrible house fire. I saw her family on the front lawn whose lives are now completely ruined, not just because a house caught on fire, but because one of their husbands beat and burned the mother to death. Like, this is horrible shit. And for whatever reason, this comes into my existence. And so I share this poem with Patricia in an email. I don't even know how I got her email. I was just like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. Or I just feel that based on something you'd shared in our group, I don't even recall where it was, that you may resonate with this. And then that was it with her my relationship.
Yeah.
But for me, what happened there in terms of healing was that I was able to find somebody or call in someone into my life that was able to help me articulate the things about me that I didn't know how to articulate.
Beautiful.
So this speaks to that unknown realm, right? The fifth dimension, the quantum field, our spirituality. And what I learned was that I actually knew how to articulate it quite well. I just didn't have that space ever given to me before, right? That space was never present. My dad never taught me that. My mom never showed me that. Well, they did, but in different ways, not in a direct manner in which Patricia and I can sit in a room and just end up on Pluto talking about this stuff, right? In a literal sense, not just the metaphorical one, but in a literal sense. And so yeah, man, it's like, how do we heal from our trauma? Well, we got to face our own vulnerabilities, right? We got to face our own humility. Like, I'm sitting there yelling and swearing at my kid. Obviously, I know that's not a good thing to do, but do we actually face that? Do we actually do something about it? Do we actually go and try and change the story? And I really believe that most times, no, we don't.
We play the someday game. Someday I'll deal with that.
Yeah, or like, we never give it enough time. We think that, like, we think we fail. It's like, no, like, every thought in contribution to change is change, right? So is action. But if we don't think of it in a manner that everything is culminating, then we just think, I tried, right? And then, like, you know, Yoda says there is no try. Right.
I just did that today with somebody. Yep.
Right. So, like,
Brandon, there's this other side too, though. And I think, and I don't mean to interrupt you here, but I think it's important, because you've had the ability to take on so many different risks, and you also had this compassion that was actually, you were not afraid of it. I think, you know, my favorite line, fear is not your currency, fear is not my currency. But the ability to take what had happened to you through other experiences, and this last one, it really became almost your tipping point. And for you, you had the confidence, which I think, even if you add it all together, you know, financially, the business, you know, he's still being a firefighter, but running the company, running the business, the workshops, you know, doing all of the things, the dad pod that you had, all of that was still, you were still not in a way ignoring yourself, but you were paying more attention to the things that you were still kind of attached to. But I knew 100,000,000% that you were so ready to, you know, release it. And I think, you know, all the decisions that you made, the good counsel that you received, and of course you and Ashley just sitting down and having that heart to heart and saying, you know, what do we want our life to look like in the future, and how will we embrace making that change? And then you made the decision to do it, and the courage, the monad, the soul, you know, the whole perspective of you saying, no matter what, we're still going to be okay. So all those life lessons were already encouraging you and giving you the confidence to know that you could do it. Now, I'm going to add one more thing because we're running out of time here. And I know we could have a million more stories, and I wish you can.
Yeah,
But
more.
when you arrived, you sold your house, you arrived into Costa Rica, and you're really in the bubble of this is going to be the most awesome adventure. And I won't say what happened, but take a minute just to tell everybody, like, you're building this incredible, journey. And from day one, you got struck. If you want to talk about karma, tell us what happened.
So we showed up, we took the leap of faith, entered into paradise. And on the second day we were here, we were in a massive car accident. Me and my son were taken to the hospital. He had to get x-rays of a concerned spinal injury. He ended up being okay. But the ambulance ride here was basically like me throwing in the back of a pickup truck and drive him to the hospital myself. I had glass all through my arm. So we were in a high speed collision head on. We didn't see the car coming at all. It just hit us. We were driving. I turned because Ashley and I were talking, and all of a sudden we're spinning around in circles. Once the car finally stopped, Ashley started screaming. She's looking back at the kids, obviously, like, what has just happened? I look over and there's another truck coming around the blind corner right at us. So thank God I was able to move the car forward enough to get out of the lane of traffic, because we would have got hit from the other side again. And these moments happen so fast. It shook the shit out of everyone. Now I'm not arriving on scene of an accident. I am in the accident.
Yeah.
Right. I'm in the accident.
The other vantage point.
With my children. And so now we're stuck on a mountain. This was a rental car, so we didn't really have a vehicle for these first few weeks that we were here. It was the wettest rainy season ever in Costa Rica. And so we had over 9 feet of rain in October alone. We showed up on October 5th. Yeah, bro.
Holy shit.
And so we were just perched on top of this mountain in the rain, just like allowing it to cleanse our life and all the emotions of what the fuck did we just do? And my wife on repeat was on her phone being like, we can move to Hawaii, we can move here, we can move there. Like, where are we going? And so, it's like you make the decision to finally do these things or to do these things. It doesn't mean that everything's just going to be rainbows and unicorns and everything's going to be perfect. There's always something else that happens. And so it was an amazing lesson for us looking back. It was an amazing connector for our family and our children, and the attention that we need to pay to our kids, because there's so much trauma, as I'm sure the three of us know, going back and doing work on our childhood and that childhood trauma work, right? Like it comes from the slightest of things. And so, like, weeks after that, my daughter, who is now 10 years old, she was 9 at the time, she's like, Daddy, I don't want to wear this shirt anymore. I'm like, why, babe? Like, it looks good. She's like, it's the shirt that I was wearing in the car accident. Like, she remembers these things, right? And so anyways, it's really interesting, like, watching how that experience shows up with my children and where it shows up with them, as well as myself, right? Driving, you got to drive by the scene every single day. It's the only road in town to get from where we live into town, right? So yeah, that was another tick on the box.
Wow. Well, Brandon, I know that I am deeply grateful that we were able to get the communication of the internet working tonight.
Finally.
I hope the listeners enjoyed, I know we tried to fill in the blank before you came on, but I know myself, having had multiple conversations with you, you live in my heart. I love you. I have such a deep respect and profound, desire to see you do so well with Fire to Light, because I know what you've put into the program. The program is exceptional. And I know the whole entire world one of these days is going to have the opportunity, to see it manifest.
It's coming soon.
Yes, I know. So, safety is important, but at the same time, I love the courage and just the depth of commitment that you've made to make this all work. And I'm fortunate because I get to see all the pictures, even, the snakes going up the tree and
Right.
all this stuff. Oh my God, the sloth hanging off the tree sends me a picture, and I'm like, he goes, I'm going for a walk. Look at the sloth in the tree. Like, okay.
You live in a zoo,
Living
a beautiful
in the zoo.
zoo.
But I'm super grateful. I'll let Christopher, finalize things here. But from me to you, I am so grateful that you are here and you're safe. And Godspeed. That accident scared the H out of all of us when you told us. And huge prayers. But I know you've done a lot of amazing work, and there's more stories about the circle and all the things that you're going through. So.
There's got to be a book in there, dude. You have the makings, I swear to God, of
a movie,
a best-selling book that will definitely be a movie. Do you have desire to put it all down on paper soon enough?
So there's a book that's in progress. There's some stories that are shared, not so much an autobiography type, but there's a book that's in progress. That's happening in the works. It's kind of been put off for a few months that I got to get back at.
Sweet.
But yeah, man, no, like I love writing. Patricia knows, like she's usually the first one I share all my poetry with. But yeah, no, there's definitely a book or two that'll happen. That's for sure.
Sweet. Well, we will have you back on the show. We'll have you on the Unfiltered Experience as well. It's the show we do on Friday nights that talks a lot about what we talked about tonight. And for everybody out there listening in audio land, tell them where they can get a hold of you via your website.
Yeah, firetolight.org, brandon.r.evans on Instagram. Those are the best spots to hit me up.
Cool. Awesome, brother. Well, thank you. I'm going to stick you backstage for a second. Don't go anywhere, because Patricia and I still want to talk to you for a second, but we're just going to close out the show. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for being the poster boy for resiliency, for courage, for tenacity. Thank you, man. It's been a privilege to have this conversation with you, and I look forward to more conversations with you as well.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks so much. I really appreciate the time.
You got it, brother. We'll be right with you. So there we have it. Patricia, Patty, my dear friend. Thank you for introducing all of us to Brandon. I mean, what a tremendous individual. You could just feel his soul within him, right? You just feel that good feeling. Like you want to be in a challenging situation with Brandon. You want to be there with them, because he's going to be like that other guy. I was like, all right, it is what it is. Let's go deal with it. And then once we're done with it, we'll party.
Yeah. Again, when I think about, look how we all meet, like how we have a certain connection with a person, and you don't know what is it, like, where does it go? And how very interesting we pick up on that energy to help one another, not expecting that something would, manifest, but now years go by and, you see the journey, and you're actually sort of on part of that journey. Like I'm on part of your journey. You're on part of my journey. I'm on Brandon's journey. He's in mine. There's one line. He had said this to me, and this goes way back, by Paramahansa Yogananda. And it's oh my God, a saint is a sinner who never gave up. A saint is a sinner who never gave up. And when I think about it, there's so many people on this planet that are walking around not thinking, or thinking that, what they're doing, it's going to be this way forever. And Brandon is that person who says, no, I'm going to explode the dream. I'm going to shatter whatever I was thinking it could happen. And I'm going to see what else is on the other side of that, because that's what he did when he went to India. That's what he did when he crossed, into New Zealand, and on and on. But now to have his kids and his wife and experiencing this manifestation of a true journey of life, and taking it, like, he is extremely humble. And there is this inspiration that when you are in the position where you can recognize something about what he's doing or saying that you can take home with you, that you can say, it's like Oren.
Right.
It's like a lot of the people that, we've had the opportunity to talk to, they're your teachers doesn't matter what your age is, they're your
Mhm.
teachers, and you just have to be vulnerable, and you have to be humble enough to look at what's in front of you and say, what can I learn? What can I do better? And if, every time I have an opportunity to, reevaluate something that's happened to me, I always think, I'm happy this happened because it makes me see something a little bit differently. And I think, having that experience that he's gone through, especially now with his children, imagine what the stories they're gonna tell
I
25 years from
know.
now. Yeah, we were taken out of school in Brampton and we moved to Costa Rica, and now we're in a private school doing circle and counting stars and looking at physics from a whole new level. Like,
Sweet.
unbelievable.
Yeah, they're truly living life. They're truly living life, not
Yeah,
just existing in life. And that's what
yeah,
he's teaching his kids, to go out there, grab the life by the horns, and make the most
yeah,
out of every single day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, that's what I said. I just want to acknowledge some of the beautiful people who've been here tonight.
Oh,
We've had a new person in here,
Nima.
Nima. What's up, Nima? Thank you for being here and spending your time with us. We got Sanjay.
Hey,
What's up,
Sanjay,
Sanjay? Thank you for being here. Appreciate
famous
it.
photographer.
Yeah, I know. We've got Serena Buffalino in the house. I don't know if she saw our commercial, but we
Yeah.
got her in the house. We got Robert Broker in the house. We got and Nuba Hav says great and well done. Thank you very much for that. I apologize if I screwed up your name. Got Katie Fralick in the house. What's up, Katie? Thank you for joining us. She commented here, the living years, Mike
Yeah.
and mechanics.
Mechanics.
Yes, yes. It's crazy when you start getting older and all these old songs you didn't understand when you were
We're
a
not
kid.
old.
like Don Henley, The End of Innocence. I never liked that song, but recently I listened to it. I'm like, oh my God, it feels like life. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Got Renee Gordon in the house. She says, wow, this is a remarkable and spiritual message. Well, thank you, Renee, for joining us. Appreciate you. Please share this out, guys. David Libby in the house says, incredible shares. Thank you, David. Please share this out, guys. The more people that get an opportunity to see this conversation, hear this conversation, the more opportunity we have to heal one another. And that's what is needed most in this world right now, no matter where you're at, no matter where you're listening from, where you're watching from. The world needs your gifts right now. So we implore upon you to take every single day and set the intention to be the person that you want to be remembered for. Every single action that you take, fulfill that legacy, that belief, and that knowing that you're here for a particular reason, to make this world a better place for who you are and what you do. And continue to show up here every single week for the Raw and Unscripted show. We're going to be back again next week. Patty, tell us who we got coming up next week.
We have D.O. Gibson, and he is a Canadian rapper. He is a phenomenal individual with also a pretty amazing life and story. And I am super, super stoked. Thank you, Christopher. So this is, your second time to co-host with someone, and it's me. So we have one more to go, and I'm really thrilled. And thank you so much. I really appreciate what you're doing and excited about your book. And for all those people out there who are listening, sign up. This book is going to be amazing.
Yeah, there it is. It's coming.
Yeah.
Just don't tell Dave Grohl that I used his book as my actually, go ahead and tell Dave Grohl. I want you to go tell Dave Grohl that Christopher Rausch used his book as a mock book cover for his autobiography coming out. I want you to do that.
I'll just call him tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you. All right, beautiful people. We will see you here next time on the Raw and Unscripted show. Go out there, be beautiful, share this show out there, be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. And we will see you next time.